folks are asking questions. But
That's
awesome
great.
to be here. Super exciting. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what I like to call AI-led growth. But before we jump in, Matt is going to put a little poll together really quickly. So I have a question for everyone. This is a lot more fun in person because I can actually see people. So we'll do the virtual version of this. I think it's the other question, but it's fine. We can start with this one. All right. Has your team reduced headcount or decided not to hire someone because of AI? I'm really curious on this one. So answer the questions, and we'll give it a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds, and we'll see the results here in a second. And I don't know if I can see the results. I think you might need to publish the results whenever it's done, whenever you see enough votes. Matt.
Yeah, we'll give it a few seconds. It's pretty neck and neck right now.
All right.
All right.
We need some drama.
I love the option 3 from Harry.
Yeah.
Probably, but we didn't explicitly say that.
Not stated.
Yeah. That's what we told our investors. All right.
Yeah. Awesome. I think we have close to a quorum on the vote. So I'm gonna end the poll, and hopefully we'll see this. And share results.
All right. Let's see. Wow, I'm actually surprised. This is like an early adopter group. So 39% have decided not to hire because of AI. That's awesome. But the thing here that is that I really think AI, at least for now, won't take your job, but a person that uses AI will take your job. And part of this is like, if you think about just the anatomy of work and just how we go about doing work, if we get nothing away from this presentation, I think this is the most important piece, is just kind of an invitation for us all to rethink how we're approaching work. If you think about imagine a world where we have 100 AI agents at your disposal. What is your day-to-day going to look like? We're not that far away. We might be a few years out from that, but if we start now to rethink our work and how we approach every aspect of our work, then we'll be ahead of the curve and we'll be the AI natives. And those are the people that I think will have an unfair advantage over everyone else. And so appreciate everybody joining the poll. And so let's kick it off. I want to cover 3 quick things here. And again, as I'm going through, post questions, and Tito will stop me. And if not, at the end, we'll also do a quick Q&A, and I'll do a few demos as well. But 3 quick things I want to cover. First one is building a PLG flywheel. I'll go through just so that you understand a little bit of the strategy with Deepgram, company I work for. And before I go into a little bit more on the playbook and how we started to create AI content, we published over 3,000 pages already and 24x our traffic. And then a little bit on how we're turning a lot of these new signals into opportunities in a more programmatic way. So let's dig in. Quick about me. I know many of you that register probably already know me, but I've been fortunate enough to start my career at large enterprises like IBM and HP and build content programs and demand gen. But I've also been fortunate to then jump over to startups and be part of a few hyper growth stages. Like with HashiCorp, we went from 6 to almost 100 million in 2 years. They IPO and recently got acquired by IBM. ServiceTitan scale, and I'm currently at Deepgram. And if you haven't heard of Deepgram, so at Deepgram, we help essentially everyone build voice AI into their apps. And so that means how AI listens, so speech recognition, understands what you're saying, and then also talks back. And so we're seeing some really cool things like people automating drive-through, 911 calls, helping with contact centers, building full end-to-end voice agents. And it's really cool to be able to see all these startups and applications built on top of Deepgram. So this gives you a little bit of context on Deepgram as I go through our strategy. So, okay, building a PLG flywheel. What is a flywheel, first of all? So we all heard of a growth flywheel or different types of flywheel, but what I'm referring to here is going beyond just your product flywheel and thinking about how do you create self-reinforcing cycles in everything you do surrounding your product as well, right? And so not just approaching marketing and how you go to market in the traditional way, but how do you create things that the more you do in these programs, growth becomes easier, not harder. So each component helps create more momentum for the other component and vice versa, right? And so for Deepgram, this is what a little bit of our flywheel looks like. And as I mentioned, we are an API. When you're an API, is a little bit hard to showcase just an API. And so a lot of what we're trying to do is attract startups and people, builders, to use our API. And so I'll go through each step of the strategy just to give you the context. So then when I go through what we build, you kind of understand at a high level, but hopefully you get some takeaways from this as well. And so as we're thinking about building this flywheel, one of the first things we wanted to do was build a startup program. And so the idea here is getting startups and helping them go from 0 to 1. And if they start with us, then we believe they're going to grow with us. And that came from an insight that our biggest customers today started as YC companies that weren't doing much and weren't spending a whole lot. So if we continue to find those types of companies early on, they'll come in the journey with us. And but the really cool thing is, once we launched the startup program, then we started building these other programs around it. And so the first one was this, what we call AI Apps Catalog, which I'll go through how we did this using AI. But we said, hey, what is the thing that every single startup in our program and beyond wants? And it's really distribution. People are trying to grow. And so we said, what if we build a catalog and we scrape every single app we can possibly find and create just this really rich experience for every single application, whether it's from a tiny startup all the way to, you know, an AI app from maybe a large corporation. Everything is here in this really rich catalog. And it was kind of crazy because this thing took off as we launched it. And so now we have this amazing distribution. And the really cool thing is now we're featuring a lot of the startups from the program in the catalog. But now the catalog starts to attract a lot of people to the startup program as well. And then we said, okay, we're getting a ton of traffic. We have some subscribers. We decided to launch an industry or an AI newsletter called aiminds.com. And so we took all our subscribers and now we're converting people that are coming to the apps catalog as well, right? So now, as we're reaching out to startups for our program, we have multiple things to offer them beyond free credit. We have a catalog that's getting over 1 million visits a month. We have a newsletter with now actually almost 200,000 subscribers, right? The people visiting the apps, they're converting into subscribers at about 1%, which is great for us. And but then we can also feature startups and our content in the newsletter as well. And so one, as you start to see, starts to reinforce the other. So I encourage all of you to kind of start to think about how the dots connect. And as we started to engage with influencers and folks in the community, started to realize not everyone will be a big customer, but many of them want to promote Deepgram. And so we recently also launched a affiliates program as well. And so it's been really successful. And this is a way for us to incentivize even further folks from the community and the broader ecosystem that we're building to promote and engage with Deepgram and tell other people about it. But you can do all these things perfectly. At the end of the day, you still need to get your product right. But one thing that we've learned is that product launches are becoming more and more important. I remember my IBM days where product launches were so boring and really did nothing. But today, like, we really try to figure out the recipe for how do we get product launches right. And so it's this combination of how do you engage with folks early on, demonstrate what your product does, the value, tell a really compelling story, have benchmarks, have things that prove the value of your product, and try to pack it all up at the same time and make a massive splash, right? And so we've been getting better and better at this. And the really cool thing about it is, if you're once you start to get product launches right, you start to see this kind of almost rising tide effect, right? Obviously for us, like our market is, developers building with AI and voice. But you can kind of see after every single launch, and this trend has continued since I put this chart together, there's this rising tide where after it, like brand searches continue to increase as well. And so there's this huge benefit, right? But then you also need to figure out what is your model to make it easy to try, easy to buy, easy to activate, easy to use, right? And for us, it's been about like everywhere. We're just giving a lot of things away and allowing people to just use it and experience our API in a way that people can understand the value of it. And so so we have this on our homepage, on every product page. You can just play with the product essentially. With our API, you can generate voices. We have a voice generator that's completely free. People can generate unlimited voices and audio files. But we have a playground. You can literally put a YouTube link and transcribe that entire YouTube link, and then it'll give you the topic, the sentiment, and all these things. And so people really appreciate that because they see like you're being really generous, because at the end of the day, you want people to just experience your product. And so that's a quick summary of our strategy, right? And you can see how each piece reinforces the other. And the results have been really amazing to see. Deepgram, to give context, was not a PLG company that long ago. And so we still have a very strong sales motion, but we're starting to see that about 58% of actually our sales deals, our sales-led deals, started with either a product or meaningfully impacted by product usage and kind of this flywheel. And so every single metric that we're being looking at, and we just had a board meeting yesterday, right? Like this trend has continued. We're just seeing it take off. And this all started in Q1 with the product launch, and then the startup community, and then all these programs reinforcing. And so it's been really cool to see, including product usages like API requests quarter over quarter. So, all right, now for the fun part. Using AI content, I mentioned the AI apps catalog. And so I want to take you through really quickly how we actually did this. For context, I've actually never hired an SEO person before. I don't consider myself an SEO expert, and I've never done programmatic SEO prior to this. And so this is to say that anyone can build this. And most of the things I built, I had never built before. And the first version of this, I built it myself. And so like on a spare time. So I wanted to show my whole team as well that like these things can be built, and you just gotta like stick with it because they're not that easy to do, right? But you can also see, other than this little sharp fault, which was someone messing up our sitemap for a while and then we didn't catch it, you see the growth has maintained and continued despite all of Google's updates. And so we must be doing something right here. You see it's not crazy spiky, and it's continued to grow, consistently across. And so what do? First step, validation, right? Insight and validation. As I was going through, I started to realize, I started running into a bunch of AI apps catalogs, right? Like a bunch of directories. There's even a site now that has 170 of these. So 170 of these is insane, right? So your first instinct would be, okay, stay away. There's plenty of competition there. But running towards competition is not always a bad idea. And what I noticed was some of these traffics were really, some of these sites were taking off. And when I looked at the content, you can see a little example here in the bottom. It was pretty poor. It was like clearly like just a chat GPT prompt, very basic and not very rich. And so I saw an opportunity to do better. And I also wanted to kind of learn how I could do this. And so I went on this this kind of journey, if you will, came across AirOps, and then started to kind of play with it, right? Like, hey, if I feed LLMs the right input, if I do the right research, if I scrape sites, if I feed it the right information, can I get a better answer than these sites that were out there? And consistently the answer was yes. And so I knew that if I can generate a better answer than what's out there, and those sites are already getting traffic, that there's a very high opportunity for us that even if we don't rank in as high as those sites, we can do well. And so it was worth investing, you know, this time. I probably spent over 1,000 hours on this. This was around September of last year. And so this wasn't like a weekend thing, let's figure it out. This was like month after month of like learning. But now things are so much easier. And part of like what I've been going through is trying to show everyone that this is not that hard. But it is a lot of work too. You know, it's not no work, but the benefits are really high. So today, like you can go to deepgram.com/AI-apps, and you can see this catalog, and it's beautiful. It's not perfect, but it's continues to get better. We're on kind of our second version of the design here. And this was all done with a very lean team. Like I said, I built the first prototype, but the approach I took was just to say like, hey, I've done content programs, right, where we were publishing 20 articles a week, and I knew from the beginning, like, can you decompose your workflow into the right steps for what it's going to take to actually publish a good page, right? This is a simplified version, but it's essentially, we'll go through some of these steps. So the first one was like, hey, let's get a seed list of apps, and later on, we'll figure out how to programmatically find new apps. And so the first thing was using Ahrefs. Like we found a couple of sites that already had, you know, thousands and thousands of pages. We exported that and filtered through just to find our first seed list of about like 6,000 apps. And then we started sorting through for not safe for work shit and you know, stuff that we didn't want to do. And so that gave us like our first kind of seed list to start with. And then the
Marcel,
next step
I'm pretty
was,
sure you're going to get here, but we do have a question. Can you
sure.
give more color on what took so much work? Was it the right prompt engineering, sourcing inputs to feed the model? I think you're getting here, but just want to make sure you cover that.
Yeah, thank you. So I think a big part of this was the command center part, actually right here. So it's very timely. Part of this is because you want to, even if you're doing this manually 100% with humans, you kind of need to decompose your steps of your workflow in order to get one piece done, right? And when you're doing thousands, you can't manage it the same way as doing a dozen, right? And because of that, there was a lot of steps to it to make sure the output could scale to thousands. And then the part that also wasted a lot of time was just like researching things. And so I'll go through a few of like, oh crap, like it's really hard to get people's logos. But then I found a service called Brand Fetch, right? Like, so it was like researching and trying and running into issues. And then sometimes some of these tools like Airtable might not have an integration ready to go. So then you have to build a Zapier flow. Sometimes Zapier breaks, you know, but it's also like, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so knowing what I know now, actually, like, I think the time can be cut by, you know, probably like 90% plus, you know, and we're also since like built other programs, in the time that it took to do that was much less, right? But this piece is really important, which is the command center.
Marcel, can you share what the logo service was called?
Yeah, I'll get to it and towards like the end of the steps. And then I'll share the presentation as well and a bunch of other things. But the core of this was once we had the command center of every step of the flow to create a piece of content, right? And then it was like, all right, let's build just a basic flow and start to validate in AirOps. So this was, hey, I'm scraping a site. I'm just doing some, you know, coming up with a really good description. I'm, you know, using a few APIs to find another description of that app and just pull it all together, right? And it actually did really, really well, surprisingly so. And part of that is because every homepage is different, and often people are looking for just like really good descriptions and answers to very specific questions like, hey, does this thing integrate? How much does it cost? Like very basic things, and you'd be surprised how hard it is to get it for long tail apps that are not well known yet, right? And so we automated all that, meta title, meta description, and then we said, okay, we need all these catalogs look okay-ish at best, but we wanted to automate a like nice looking cover. So we use this app called Abby Sale. They're actually pretty cool, not that expensive, and this integrates with Airtable. And so essentially we're taking the logo, we're taking the title, the tagline, which is AI generated with AirOps, and then we take a screenshot of that site, and then it programmatically creates these images, right? Like, so you can see like 5,000 images generated. If you were doing one by one in Canva or Figma or Photoshop or whatever, it would, definitely take you at least 5,000 hours, or, some thousands of hours, right, saved right there. And then we use BrandFetch, which also has a description of a lot of these sites, but it essentially is an API that gives you their logo and a bunch of other things. Cool thing is I asked AirOps to integrate this, and they did. So thank you for that. The last I use, I'm using a lot of Zapier credits, so the less I use Zapier credits, the better. And then the last piece, right? And although it's the last piece I mentioned, this is actually fundamental to every step, was having a human in the loop, right? And so every single step of the way in the command center, there's a human that's batching the content, going through, doing quality control, and I'm going to go and actually show you this and do a little demo as well of some of these things right now. And so yeah, you guys ready for a quick demo? And Tito, if there's questions too, like during the demo, I can answer as well. But and keep me on time here. Give me a second.
Sounds
here.
good. There was one question, but I'm going to save it for the end since I think it's a little different than what you're talking about right now. But keep rolling. I'm surfacing all the questions.
Right. Okay, cool. So this is our command center live. It wasn't like a Photoshop screenshot, I promise. But this gives you a little idea of kind of what we build. So like these are a couple of apps that we're doing bulk right now. And then there's a list of new apps. Click this, it's going to trigger the brand fetch. And then there's going to be a list of articles to start. You click here, it's going to scrape their site and start the process, some of the automation process. Once it's done, then this is a list of apps that are ready already to start the article creation process. You click here, and it's actually going to force or not force, but it's going to trigger the flow, which I'll show you in a second as well, which is to write the full article. Once that's done, then you can see here the article has been fully created. With links, right? Like sign up, like I don't need to go to their website and see where each link is. It's all here linked. And then from there, now I can start the meta copy. And then once that's done, then it goes into this stage, which actually it's empty right now. But this is where I have the Abyssal extension here, where it can grab the images and the screenshot, which was already automated. This is taking a second, and programmatically create those images, right? I don't know why this is taking so long. Okay, there we go. So now you can see like, hey, the view is AI apps, create cover image. This is the template there. And then you can see there's a field called screenshot that's mapped, short description, app name, and that's it. And if there was things here, you can generate here, let me see if I can do it here really quickly. But anyway, so then you can see the next step here then is once you go through all of this, then there will be apps that need final QA. Right now, this queue is empty. This is literally live, right? Like so our folks on our team have kind of clear out this queue already. But then as we go through the quality control, there's things we flag for quality, right? And so like, let's just take this, let's look at the comment here, remove per request. Okay, they reached out to us and asked us to remove for whatever reason, they don't want to be promoted. And so, like we go through and each one of these, hey, incorrect logo. And depending on what the quality issue is, like we will flag it here and then we'll have a process to fix it, right? Like the logo, for example. And then finally, like this is what it looks like at the end, right? You see 2,871 records. So you can see like everything here. There's the categories as well. This is the full article. And anyways, this is the brand fetch response, like the full JSON, and you can see, and then this is us parsing it out here. This is their logo. And so anyways, so that's the command center. And so I'll show you a little bit of kind of like the behind the scenes in AirOps too, because it's pretty cool to see. But AirOps has recently launched this really cool grid that kind of makes it a lot easier than putting it all together in Airtable. Definitely, if you need the collaboration, Airtable is great. But if you're trying to run like some of these things, very quickly, you can pull it together, and it's pretty cool. So, so let's say, what is Airtable? So let's say that's your keyword, and you can automate. For example, I have a flow here that pulls search volume. So AirOps, actually, I asked them to integrate SEMrush. They did this week, so it's pretty cool. I can see there's 2,900 people searching for the keyword, what is Airtable? And the keyword difficulty is 57. So then I can create a quick title here, and I'm gonna set these to start running really quickly while I show you. And then the title, it's pretty simple. I'll take the primary keyword, and it's going to have some basic prompts here on what a good title looks like. And it's actually going to generate 10 different titles. And then this next LLM step is going to pick which one is the best. But you can play around with this, right? You can kind of see. So for example, the input here is what is the Airtable? The output was this. But then in the logs, you can see that the previous step generated 10. And you could have had a human in the loop here, selecting which one you like best. Okay, cool. So now that's done, right? And right now I have a couple of things running. One is a Perplexity research. So Perplexity API is pretty cool. So it just did research on that. So you can kind of see down here the research it did. What is Airtable? Airtable is a cloud-based, blah, 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 blah. It goes through some of the features. And then right now there's this next step here that does a Google search that I'll show you. It's called search and scrape. And so what it does is it takes the search query, it looks for results. It's going to pull the top 7, but you can play with it. I know I'm going super fast. It's going to be recorded, and then we'll share as well. And then it's going to scrape each item in there and do an iteration loop. And for each item, I asked it to essentially write a brief for that article or for that, and then compile that entire thing as research. So then the final product looks something kind of like this. You can see right now this flow is running live, and you can see it's going through and scraping. The first one is scraped is this. The output is these notes right here. So you can see, like, instead of the full article, it just outputted the notes in a nice format, right? Simplify overview of Airtable, introduction to Airtable, key features, getting started. And it just like summarizes what you actually want to grab.
Marcel, we have a bunch of questions that before you
Sure.
go too far ahead, I'd love to hop in.
Let's do it.
How many team members and hours per week does this take to run?
One.
One team member and 1 hour?
So we have one human in the loop that he does about he QAs about 100 apps a week, and then we're doing AI glossary. This is a more generic example I'm giving, but you can see this is the AI glossary flow. That's kind of, so we're doing about 5 to 10 a week with a different approach here.
Cool. Can you explain what you're using Airtable for versus AirOps, and like why you do each one as you do?
Yeah. So the grid is an awesome product that wasn't available when I first started, and if it was, I probably would have built I think some of these things differently. However, with the apps, we used to query Airtable directly to generate the pages, and now we're using Supabase as the database for it. And so like this is actually a database, like, right, like that we're querying. But then part of this is in order for a thing to be published, there's actually like an insane amount of like steps and comments and reviews, and you need a lot of like revision history. And it's really a more comprehensive relational database. But essentially, like, you can decompose some of this, and the grid can be a very simple place to run multiple flows at once, and then export the output to wherever you want to export, or integrate it directly to your CMS. But because we have a lot of collaboration, then this gives us kind of this command center for collaboration. And so it really kind of depends like what you're trying to solve for. This kind of replaces a CMS in some ways,
All right, we got a couple more.
It's a lot faster. Yeah.
What's the approximate budget to use all of these APIs you're showing?
Oh man. So the cool thing is that's why I've been asking AirOps to integrate a bunch of them, because like, you know, if you're paying a few $100 a month for each one of these, most of these APIs like Brand Fetch, Abisale, are a couple $100. Zapier is probably the most expensive. That feels a little bit too expensive now, but you can save a lot of money probably using Make. I'm sorry if there's people from Zapier here. I love it. I will still going to use Zapier. But you know, it's getting really expensive. We literally are running out of 200,000 credits this month. And then AirOps as transparent pricing, you can check out on their website, and we have a surprise offer at the end for both Koala and AirOps. So
Cool. There's a bunch more coming in. Maybe let's see. I'll do two more for now, and then we'll keep going. Can you show it
Cool.
backwards as well? Meaning show us the final output and how each element was derived, where a human was involved.
Yeah.
About the AI apps piece, or maybe this gets you back into a good flow.
Yeah, awesome. So this is an example of a output. The reason I'm using examples here is because like these things are evolving quite a bit. But these are the exact like same flows that I'm using for Deepgram, but there's like things we tweak to make it personal to us as well. But so this is an example of actually like where the input was Python graph visualization, and so it's like a semi like a technical topic, right? And you can see here that the first thing it did was actually generate an outline from the research. So I already showed you the research steps. So it took all of that and generated a detailed outline. And then it started going through the steps of writing. And I'll show you in a second, this is very important because you don't want to just copy and paste something over to ChatGPT or something, right? Like instead, this is a much better way to do it, where you say, hey, here's the outline, here's all the research, write an intro, and then the next step is, hey, this is the research, here's the outline, you're now in the second section of the outline, and by the way, here's what you already wrote in the first step, continue to write that, but only write the second section, and then the third, and then the fourth, and then you kind of do this chain of thought thing, and the output becomes really, really sharp. And then this is what the output looks like here. This is the full article. You can see it mentions some of the research, right? Now, what you see here, it's missing examples, it's missing like screenshots and images. It's, you know, definitely there's a human editorial process for especially technical content. We have like multiple steps here where a human is reviewing the outline, reviewing the research, reviewing the final step, adding a human voice. But the cool thing is like we're programmatically doing this. And so now instead of going and paying an expensive writer to write from the beginning, we're paying writers to enrich an article, make it better, add more research, you know, and so we can do a lot more and the output is better. And this is like end to end. And so there's a bunch of other things we've done. Like, for example, this is a style analyzer. This one takes an article and outputs it as a prompt to replicate that style of that article. There's like, we're processing a ton of transcription from sales. We're automatically filling out fields in Salesforce. Like we're really applying, we're personalizing emails from Koala signals. Like there's a bunch of stuff we're doing now. Cool.
Marcel, maybe there's two more related questions, and I promise I'll let you keep going. One is, what are the challenges during the March core update? And then a second question that was kind of related: does Google penalize AI content, or is there a suggested cadence of releasing new articles, or is it open season and you can post 10 plus new ones a day?
Yeah, so this is super important, and then we'll get back to the presentation. But so first thing is, you should add value no matter what. Even if you're using AI, you need to add value. You need to have a unique view, and you need to do something that other people are not doing. I think part of this unique value that we're doing in the case of the AI apps is that there wasn't a really good directory. Our experience is actually beautiful. It's fast, it's easy to use, and answers questions people are looking for. So that's why like we rank so high now. And we didn't have crazy link equity. However, like if you're a brand new site, your authority score in SEMrush, let's say like less than 25, you definitely want to take slow and, you know, go for quality over quantity, right? And so there's a direct correlation between your domain authority and your ability to scale these things. But no matter what, like I highly recommend you should have a human in the loop. You should really customize this to you. You should really do a good job with the research, the input. And then if you do that, then you start to programatize a lot of this content creation, and then iterate. Like from the time we launched this, it didn't work right away. And so there's a lot of things we had to tweak in order to get it to work. Cool. All right, so we'll do a Q&A at the end as well. So I just want to keep going. We got a few more things to cover, but and cool thing is, I already showed the results. We're now ranking for over 200,000 keywords, but it's not just a huge increase in traffic. Like we're seeing our brand searches increase as well. More application startup program. We now have a backlink program as well, where we're reaching out to people that own these apps and saying, hey, we're already featuring you. Can you feature us back, or can you link us back to us? And they say yes. And we say, hey, by the way, we have a newsletter that we can feature you. So it's like we're getting like 30 to 50 backlinks a week now, you know, and there's all kinds of other things, benefits from this. So really cool. And we're now creating other programs and using these AI flows in other ways as well. But the really cool thing is, if you do all of this and you're not thinking about how to turn this additional traffic and attention into opportunities in a programmatic way, really, like, it doesn't do much, right? And so I think part of that was us, this is kind of the one-on-one piece. Sam and our team, like, he's our marketing ops leader, and like one of the first things we needed to figure out is like, how do we build a strong foundation to understand like visit all the way to opportunity creation and further, to make sure you have a really good process, so that as you start to scale this, things don't fall through the cracks and you're able to actually track things so that you can start to automate it. But one of the things that we did from the beginning was just say like, hey, we need to understand what is our ideal customer profile and how do we create a scoring framework, very, very basic, of, you know, both company and contact fit, and then also intent, but intent-based engagement, right? Like if you visit a pricing page, that's high intent engagement. If you visit a random blog, maybe that's lower intent, right? And then almost creating these quadrants of what action are you going to take? The cool thing is that that's why I love Koala. We started, you know, been a customer multiple times now at Scale, and now at Deepgram as well. And you know, this makes a lot of this a lot easier. When I was at HashiCorp, we try to build a lot of this stuff ourselves, like identity resolution. This stuff is hard, and it wasn't nearly as good as Koala. So the fact that you can put a pixel on your site and start getting these signals is really amazing. And so the first thing is, whether you use Koala or not, you have to figure out how to consistently capture all your first party signals, and start to synthesize that. And hopefully you're not spending a bunch of time creating these dumb rules of like, if this, then that, or like, you know, lead scoring rules and whatnot. Like, you just want to start to correlate, right? And understand from your first party data what's working and how that correlates to opportunities, and have that in a single dashboard, which I'll actually show live in a second. And then start to prioritize these signals by account, and who the people in those accounts are. And not every signal is created the same, but essentially leave no signals behind. And now you can start to kind of make sense of everything, right? And so the first thing we did was then from there start to act on the right signals. So actually, Koala has this content report it generates that starts to correlate every single page on your site, every single piece of content, to opportunities and the influence it has on the propensity to buy or propensity to create an opportunity. And so like we started with the basic, like if you viewed a pricing page, you get an email automated, you know, those types of things, just the basic stuff, not even crazy personalization. 88% open rate, 32% reply, and 16% convert into meetings, which is amazing. So now we're like, okay, how do we start to expand the signals we're acting on, and then also personalizing how we're acting on them?
Marcel,
And
you have
now,
10,
like
10
yeah,
active
please.
ops and 3 closed one ops as well in the last couple months.
Nice. Hell yeah. And the cool thing is we have like, you can pipe in product usage as well. So if you have a product led motion, you can kind of see like, hey, how many API requests they're making and things like that. And so now like you can start to make sense of that. But the really cool thing is like we created a channel, and I'll show in a second in a demo, for every single one of our AEs so they can automatically get notifications of important signals, accounts that are surging, people that are doing interesting things within their accounts. So, you know, again, it's automation and AI working for them, not us working for AI, right? And so with that, let's go on to another demo. We're just kind of showing a few things. Okay, so super quickly here, you can see I had to filter a few things here because I don't want to accidentally show people's emails, you know, and so you can see like here's a list, for example, of accounts that don't have emails or that spent more than 20 minutes that don't have an opportunity created right now, you know, and you can kind of see. And then let's say there's, you know, an account that's starting to surge or something. I pull one that right now we don't have a known visitor because I don't want to show anybody's emails here, but you can kind of see the actions that they've taken and kind of the intent score. And you can see how, you know, it's all integrated with some of our other systems as well, and some additional information on the company. So it's pretty cool to see like what they're visiting. You can see Aura text to speech. That's our text to speech API announcement. So, you know, we can probably start to reach out to Databricks and ask them like, what are they thinking about in terms of that or something. You know, here's another example, like Workday, you know, same thing. You can kind of see the visitors. Again, I'm picking ones that are don't have known visitors just for privacy reasons. And then this is like how easy it is to set up these alert channels for AE. So right now, anytime someone views a pricing page or any one of these signals, automatically sends a Slack. And then this is the automation piece of once they do take those signals, then it's automatically sending them emails as well. And so now like the next step for us is, and by the way, one of the reasons I'm not going and clicking a bunch of things is just because there's like a lot of data, unfortunately, I can't show, or I'll get in trouble, and I want to respect people's privacy, like their email addresses and things like that. That's the only reason, but you should try it out. You can put a pixel on your site and start to see signals right away. But the next thing we're doing right now is combining the two, right? Like AirOps and Koala intent signals. And so we have the full flow, but I'll show you like just a quick demo of a simpler one. And it's pretty cool to see. So right now what we're trying to do is automate the first touch personalization, which is really cool. So now we're taking something like, you know, first name, their work email, and their website, for example. And later on, we're also integrating, obviously, like Koala signals. So there's a much more complex flow here. And then it's running through and fetching their LinkedIn profile. I'm using Tito as the example here. And then it's scraping their website. And then it's writing a note about their website. It's also writing a brief about their LinkedIn profile. So you can see Tito here, current position as co-founder of Koala. You can see his previous roles, his education, location, a quick summary here about his experience, and all of that converges into this. You know, there's definitely a lot of more tweaking we need to do here, but it's kind of fun. It's cool because it mentions like, hey, you're helping companies like Marcel, Retool, and Segment. You know, it knows what Deepgram does. It understands what Koala does. It knows that Tito worked at Segment, Dropbox, and Facebook. And it even puts in a really crappy AI joke. Why did the Koala reject the lead? Because it didn't meet its qualifications. And it's cringeworthy, but it's fun and makes people smile. And, you know, so it's cool. Like that's kind of what we're doing right now as the kind of next phase here for this, which is essentially this. Cool. All right, super quick, and so we have time for Q&A. And Tito, jump in if I'm going too fast here, but we're almost at the end. Takeaways.
You're all good. Keep going. We have 2 questions open still.
Awesome. The main thing here, like, is, you know, it's not just about the tools. It's about thinking about how AI can be integrated in every step of your work. Every single person on my team right now is thinking about this. Like the whole company right now is thinking about how to automate their work, how to use AI, how to leverage automation, how to leverage humans in the loop to understand the context of the work. How do you decompose the work and take a first principles approach, right? And as opposed to just saying like, hey, I'm going to automate end to end with one click. Like, that's not how it works, you know? And so if we just start to play with AI and start to use it in more meaningful ways, like, for example, right now we're automatically processing transcripts and autofilling fields and Salesforce and helping the AEs with mutual action plans. And all of that is like custom to us. And I just believe that there's context is going to matter so much. Operationalize every important signal. And that's not just in the top of funnel or pipeline, like every signal for your customers. How do you know if a customer is going to be at risk? How do you personalize that? How do you start to operationalize and scale things? And then think about creating self-reinforcing cycles from a strategy perspective, so that the more you grow and the more things and the more things you build, the easier it gets to grow, right? And so that's it. And quick thing, I got two things. One, I'm actually doing the second cohort of workshop. Sorry, very self-promotional here for just a second, but I promise you, like, you can see some of the reviews. It's essentially like a 5-hour thing, because as you can see, it's a lot of work to do this. But then everyone is now in this Slack community after the workshop and helping each other out. We're sharing templates. We're sharing like what we're building. We're sharing, like, doing a backlink exchange. Like, we're doing a bunch of cool things. And so I'm doing this workshop. I wasn't going to do another one, but a bunch of people asked for it. So we have 10 spots left. And if you use MAR20 code, you get a discount. And I'm also hosting office hours afterwards as well, just to kind of start to build a community around AI-led growth. And instead, we'll send this link out. And Koala and AirOps will send some details on some special offers only for folks attending this, as a thank you for attending and joining us today. And so with that, I'll leave this here and we can tackle some questions or go from there.
Yeah, I got some questions for you. There's a couple about prompting. I'm going to read both of them. How did you figure out the prompts and chain of thoughts with multiple prompts? When is simple good enough? When do you need to sequence prompts? Any best practices? And then another very similar question along those lines.
Yeah, iterate. I'll show a few things here. But one, sorry, let me grab the right one. But one thing that I like to use recently is called a CoStar framework. So context, objective, style, tone, and then audience and response format. And this helps. And then also structuring like your prompts and responses in a very organized way with kind of sections and things like that. It's like, it makes a pretty big difference. But a lot of this is just like testing and then seeing like, hey, am I getting what I want from this? And like this one is about how to open a franchise, right? Like, it's a small business example. And like, hey, this paragraph is kind of long. I got to tweak this. Like, how do I get this paragraph to be shorter and more punchy and whatnot? And it's just like tweaking things quite a bit. And so that's part of the process that makes it a lot easier. What people don't realize, like when you're copy and pasting something over to ChatGPT, there's a lot of things behind the scenes that they do. And so it's really hard to like scale that and replicate that. And so here, like, you can kind of refine your prompt, for example, and you can say like, hey, like, I need this to be shorter, for example. And then when you do, it's going to try to rework this prompt, but you can also manually start to do that. So it's iteration is crucial here.
Cool. The last question was from a while ago. I said I'd say toward the end. How did you alter your launches to be more PLG? You talked at the beginning about kind of shifting to a more PLG stance.
Yeah, absolutely. So cool thing we did was we started to, so for example, when we were launching Aura, which was text to speech, we actually worked, sorry, I'm trying to find, here it is. We actually work with Greg and a few other influencers, and these are not like the flashy influencers. Like Greg is an example of influencer that literally all he does is like build apps and demos and teaches people and is like super in depth. And so it's like we're working with these people and saying, hey, we're launching this API. Let's build something that you would want to build for yourself. And so like that was part of it. We had a playground. So people could use it for free without signing up. We had a really cool video that just kind of was fun as well, riffing off of like the voice generation piece. We work with partners as well to announce the same day. We don't have a PR agency, but we did an outreach tech crunch, got picked up we're still trying to figure out our PR strategy. We're not very good at it yet, but it's like every aspect of it trying to hit at the same time, and really just like not have any BS, right? Like we're very big on showing benchmarks and just like showing more than telling. And I think that starts to resonate quite a bit.
Marcel, do you anticipate using similar workflows for content distribution on social media, organic?
Yeah, we're starting to play with that. I think stuff like that works better as like a brainstorm collaborator sidekick rather than like automating. I don't think we're going to automate everything, but maybe like if we create kind of like an alert account on new AI apps on Twitter or something, maybe we'll automate something like that, like a jobs post account on Twitter or something like that, right? Like you can automate stuff like that because it's more of an alert. But for your actual brand, like I would be more thoughtful. Certainly for like my personal stuff, like I play around with a couple of prompts, and that helps me think about how to position things. But rarely do I just copy and paste something and hit post.
Awesome. Well, I think we have officially run out of questions.
We had a
So
couple folks ask for what the discount code for the growth sprint was, if you don't mind flashing that, and then we'll send an email to
Yep.
everyone with all of this.
Yeah, we'll send an email afterwards for this. You said
It's the one before your the.
Oh, okay, yeah, MAR 20, and by the way, like if you can't expense it and you absolutely can't afford it, like message me. But or if your expense policy on education is lower than this, like the point is we want everyone to be engaged, and if people don't pay, they don't show up, and they're not engaged. Awesome. Well, this was fun. I think.
thank you so much, Marcel, for dropping your wisdom on everyone. And thanks everyone
All
for
good. Connect with us on LinkedIn and let us know if what you thought.
Thanks, everyone.
have a good
Yeah.
one.